Well, the biggest foreign policy successes and failures of the Carter administration involved the Middle East. The Camp David Accord, signed September 17, 1978, was the most significant foreign policy achievement of the Carter administration. Since the 1967 war, Israel had occupied the Gaza Strip and the Sinai Peninsula, both former Egyptian territories. Starting in 1971, President Anwar Sadat of Egypt had worked to reclaim the Sinai and expel Israel. In the fall of 1978, President Carter invited Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat to sit down with him at Camp David. Over the next 2 weeks, Carter shuttered between the declarations, hammering out the terms of peace. What emerged was the first peace accord signed by Israel and its Arab neighbors. The impact of the accord was immediate. Most Arab nations boycotted Egypt, but both Israel and Egypt benefited from significant U.S. foreign aid. Although Begin and Sadat received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979 for their efforts, President Carter received no significant political benefit. The biggest failure of the Carter administration was without a doubt the Iranian hostage crisis. It had a dramatic effect on the U.S.-Iranian relations, which continues today. The crisis took place after the Islamic Revolution and the overthrow of the Shah, at a time of profound upheaval in Iran. In 1952, Mohammad Mossadegh became Iran's prime minister. He was widely popular and became increasingly powerful. Mossadegh resented the foreign-controlled oil industry in Iran and Western influence on Iran. The West feared that Mossadegh's policies would result in an alliance with the pro-Soviet Tudeh Party in Iran. In 1953, Operation Ajax was launched by the CIA to remove Mossadegh and restore all political power to the Shah. After the Shah's departure, conflicts broke out between the Marxist Tudeh Party and religious fundamentalists led by Ayatollah Khomeini. The continued instability strengthened the power of Khomeini and others who opposed the West. President Carter was indecisive as to whether he should aggressively attempt to suppress the revolution or to reach out to the opposition to help smooth the transition to a new government. Carter did nothing and suffered the consequences. In January 1979, the Shah fled Iran, traveling to many countries before arriving in the U.S. Many Iranians believed that the Shah's arrival in the U.S. would result in efforts by the West to restore the Shah to power in Iran. Just days later, on November 4, 1979, an angry mob of young Islamic revolutionaries overran the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, taking more than 60 Americans hostage. The mob demanded that the Shah be returned to Iran for trial. In response to the crisis, President Carter stopped the sale of weapons to Iran, banned all oil imports from them, and froze Iranian assets to the U.S. When these attempts failed, Carter launched Operation Eagle Claw, a military action to try to rescue the hostages. This mission was a complete failure, resulting in 8 dead American servicemen. 4 days after the botched rescue attempt, burned bodies of American servicemen were paraded through the streets in grisly street demonstrations. Gleeful Iranians repeatedly broadcast footage of the smoking remains of the unsuccessful rescue attempt, an ongoing symbol of American failure. At home, Americans tied yellow ribbons around trees and watched nightly newscasts which showed the hostages continually paraded in front of cameras, blindfolded or hooded. ABC News launched a new TV series, Nightline, which featured daily coverage in the number of days the crisis continued to drag on. Throughout the time, the Carter administration was seen as ineffective in handling the crisis. The botched military rescue attempt in April 1980 only further reinforced those views. The one-year anniversary of the hostage crisis fell on the very day of the presidential election, which Reagan won in a landslide. Moments after Ronald Reagan took office, the hostages were allowed to leave Iran after 444 days in captivity. The hostages returned to the U.S. and were welcomed home as heroes.